Hello everyone, I'm tribalkai and welcome to the EDH channel. A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. If you too would like to support the channel, then you can visit Patreon and donate with the link in the description below. Failing that, a like, comment and subscribe is always appreciated. Now, let's have a look at everyone's opening hands. Starting things off with myself as usual, Hamza, Guardian of Arashin. And our opening hand is not incredible, but I'm hoping that we can make use of the ramp, and pretty much anything we draw into here we should be able to cast, so hopefully it works out for us. Up next is the copycat ninja himself, Drone of War. And that's a 2-lander for him. He does have a potential combo in Kitchen Finks and Heliod. All he would need is a sack outlet there, and he has infinite life, so yeah, probably worth keeping on this one. Probably gets card advantage with Growing Rights of Itlamok as well as some ramp, so yeah, can see why he kept that. On to Grenzo Dungeon Warden being piloted by Polar Bear Soup. And he's got 2 of the cards he would like the most there, I think, in Crystal Ball and the Rato Lantern, as well as a little bit of control in Playcrafter. A 3-lander's always good to start off with as well. And finally, it's Nadier and Gilanra being piloted by Bootleg Greedo. And it's a risky 1-lander for him. You can make an argument for it with Viscera Seer and Skull Clamp, but if you don't manage to get yourself into a land, it's still turn 3 on the Viscera Seer being Skull Clamped. Although I suppose you could always sacrifice it and scry 1, try and get yourself close to a land. It's a risky one, this. We get into Peer Imaginative Rascal. Let's go for the Verdant Catacombs and we'll just throw ourselves a tap land into play. Now an Endless one coming down for Hamza over there. I'm hoping that I can gain some tips from Drone here because, yeah, things like Endless one I haven't included in this deck and it would be a good one to include. We drop a Sol Ring this turn, I think, so let's go Savannah. Go for the Sol Ring and we'll get down 3 visits as well. Up against 2 green and a red opponent, so there's no guarantee we'll hold on to that Sol Ring. Let's just go for the Scattered Groves now. We can shock in the Shock Land if we're desperate for an untapped land. Really don't like drawing in 2 tap lands, because oftentimes you're desperate for 1 extra mana, and drawing into a tap land feels bad. Now a Skull Clamp from Bootleg Greedo, and hopefully he hasn't just kept a 1-lander. Well, looks as though he has, so Viscera Seer probably goes down to the Clamp next turn. Now a Rato Lantern from Polar Bear Soup, and that's not good. Heliod the Sun Crowned. I looked at plus counter enablers and saw Heliod the Sun Crowned. Didn't want to put any life gain into my deck, not enough to warrant the Heliod, so that's obviously what Drone of War has gone for, so we should see some different Hamza decks here. Let's go for Gavany Township, and then I think Peer Imaginative Rascal along with the Lightning Greaves is okay this turn. Not getting into any of our plus counter stuff unfortunately, might have to dump a lot of mana into Hangerback Walker. And as we thought, during Greedo's turn, going for the Clamp onto Viscera Seer, hopefully that will get him into a land. He's got 9 cards in hand at the moment, and it looks like Greedo has found that bad luck. Yeah, getting into the expensive Avenger of Zendikar, and there's Second Harvest. Now a Playcrafter that will take down Peer and the Endless one. I'd rather it did that than take down the Dragonlord Dramoka, so glad I went for Peer. Now Kitchen Finks. So there's some life gain for you, and that can probably combo off quite nicely. I think all they'd really need is a sack outlet there. So if they sacrifice the Kitchen Finks, comes back in with Persist, they gain a life, and Heliod puts a plus counter on it to take the minus counter off. And then they can sacrifice it, bring it back in with Persist again, and that is infinite life for them. Branching Evolution immediately replaces the Peer. Let's go Reflecting Pool. And we'll go for the Branching Evolution. And then I think we can just put 2 mana into X on a Hangerback Walker. And we really want to get into some card draw at some point. We've got plenty in the deck, but obviously haven't drawn into it yet. So the Hangerback Walker comes down as a 4/4. And then we'll go in at Polar Bear because I don't like the look of this Rato Lantern. Hardened Scale. Seems as though there's going to be a lot of plus counter shenanigans in this game. Smothering Abomination was discarded at some point there, by the way, probably at the end of last turn due to hand size. Now Crystal Ball from Polar Bear Soup, and they tap that immediately to scry 2. So easily setting up cards for the bottom of the library. Growing Rights of Itlamok from Drone. And revealing off of that a Soul of New Phyrexia, so it seems as though there might be a bunch of colourless creatures here that Drone wants to cheat out. Felidar Retreat is a nice one. I think we just start trying to set up Felidar Retreat. Although Dragonlord Dramoka is nice, but yeah, I think Felidar Retreat is okay here. And we'll continue to go in at Polar Bear. Blood Artist for Greedo. And continuing to miss on the lands, unfortunately. Teferi's Puzzle Box. At the beginning of each player's draw step, they shuffle their hand into their library and draw that many. Actually, they don't shuffle, do they? They put it on the bottom, which obviously makes sense with Grenzo. So we're going to lose that Dragonlord Dramoka. Now Drone gets a Sol Ring of his own. And then a Guardian Project. That's exactly the type of card we could do with. Then continuing to hold back the Kitchen Finks. Now we draw into a land. Teferi's Puzzle Box will trigger, so we'll put those on the bottom. And get into another land along with a Swiftfoot Boots. So it might be our commander then. Let's go Wooded Bastion. I'm going to make a cat token, because we want lots of creatures in play with lots of plus counters on them. And then it's our commander. And we'll throw down the Swiftfoot Boots, and that is us empty-handed, just have to hope for a wheel at this point. Either that or a big card draw spell off the top. So I think we go in with a 5/5 at Drone of War and hope that the Kitchen Finks can't get buffed. Yeah, they've got 2 cards in hand, so I'm hoping it can't. They could always put a plus counter on it. It's risky, but we'll see if they've got it. If they don't go for it here to get rid of our commander, I'll assume that they don't have that in hand. Hangerback Walker goes down the middle again. And deciding to block with the Kitchen Finks, so if Polar Bear and Bootleg Greedo didn't realise what the combo was, then they'll see it here, giving the Kitchen Finks lifelink, so they gain 4 life to blocks. Blood Artist will trigger, because the Kitchen Finks dies. And Heliod will put a plus counter on itself from the life gain. Kitchen Finks comes in with Persist. That draws them a card with Guardian Project, which triggers the Heliod. And that goes on to the Kitchen Finks, which removes the minus counter and takes it down to a 3/2, ready to persist again. Now this should get Greedo into some lands. Teferi Puzzle Box. They put some stuff on the bottom, 6 cards in hand. So if they don't get into any lands there, then that's about as bad an amount of luck as you can get. Well, they haven't played a land, but at least they've got a Rampant Growth. Crystal Ball being activated by Polar Bear Soup at the end of Greedo's turn, and then we'll go round to his turn. Arcane Signet from Grenzo. And that takes us into Grenzo. They'll get a Scry 1 off of the Path of Ancestry. Then deciding to just pass the turn through to Drone. Yeah, we're seeing a much better performance from this Hamza list. Zendikar Resurgent coming down now, 4 mana available with these lands. We just need to rip something really good off the top. Well, we're getting rid of a Celestia Signet with Teferi's Puzzle Box at least. Now that takes us into a land. So let's make a Cat Beast, I think, and then we'll activate the Gavany Township. So this will put 2 plus counters on all of our stuff. So any big creatures that we draw into should be a decent, should get a decent deduction from Hamza now. So we'll swing something in at Greedo. Haven't touched him this game. Then the Cat Beast and Hamza can go in at Polar Bear, because he's got a lot of decent stuff going on with Grenzo. Doing something in response there. Grenzo is going to activate, and that is a Warhorse coming down as a 4/4. You can remove a plus counter from it to add colourless mana. So they could trade our cat here if they wanted to. Or they could gang up on our Hamza, Guardian of Arashin, but just deciding to remove counters from that and activate Grenzo again. So now getting down Yahenni. Then it is Scry 2 with Crystal Ball again. And just jumping our 7/7 commander, Yahenni blocks the cat, so they'll probably sacrifice the horse here to give the Yahenni indestructible. And that's exactly what they do. That triggers the Blood Artist. And Blood Artist gets pointed at us. Now let's see if Greedo can get into a land this time. He does, so it only took digging through the top 20 cards, but got a land eventually. He's got 37 in the deck, so he's just been really unlucky. Bastion of Remembrance coming down now, so Bastion and Blood Artist, along with the token producing Nadier, suggest that this is an aristocrats list. Clamping the human straight away will drain us all with Bastion of Remembrance, and Blood Artist gets pointed at Drone of War. Polar Bear getting into a Sol Ring as well, so Greedo feeling left out over there. Then it is Desecrated Tomb. Saw this used to great effect in a game recently. Can't remember who played it though. Then leaving it there, one card in hand, but plenty of scry shenanigans and the ability to activate the Grenzo. So we'll have to be careful swinging in over there. Getting into all the cards that we need to get into, so yeah, so the Hamza deck that we should be watching is this one over here. We've got Guardian Project, Zendikar Resurgent and Beast Whisperer in this deck, but Drone of War has all of our luck with the Hamza list over there, so let's see if he can cast a creature into this now. Goes for his Hamza, which draws him a couple of cards. Not too many +1 shenanigans going on yet, unfortunately. If he can get another creature into play, it will flip over the Growing Rights of Itlimoc. And then the creature enters and it draws him yet another card, taking him up to 7 in hand. And then getting into his own Felidar Retreat. And playing a land after that. Putting a plus counter on all of his creatures. Heliod has become animated now as well, so that will flip the Itlimoc around into a Gaia's Cradle. Oh, excellent. And then a 2-mana Seedball Muse. So now we just have to watch out for the Vidalcan Orrery. And they get card draw from this, of course. Now the Heliod is coming in at us. Kitchen Finks goes in at Polar Bear, because he doesn't mind losing that. So Polar Bear going for some stuff in response. Grenzo getting activated. Brings down double mana in the Cryptghast, so each of these swamps can activate Grenzo. And that brings out a bat. We'll just take the 7 from Heliod here. I want to leave as many creatures in play as possible so that we can get the cost reduction. Although it might not matter when we're in top deck mode. Anyway, a bat blocking the Kitchen Finks so it doesn't die here. Then giving the Kitchen Finks lifelink. The bat goes down and triggers Blood Artist. So there we are, the Growing Rights of Itlimoc flips round, and we get into a Strip Mine, which we'll have to put on the bottom. And a Doubling Season, that's a good way to get everyone's eyes looking in your direction. If we had another mana, I'd just go Doubling Season into Gavany Township. I think I'd just rather focus on Gavany Township at the moment, to be honest. I think I'd rather just look at more cards. Doubling Season just gets everyone to look in our direction, and it doesn't really do anything for us at the moment. So let's just go for the Gavany Township and pass it to our opponents. If someone goes for a board wipe at some point, then the Hangerback Walker with Gavany Township should be good. I'm just going to hold back here. I'd probably swing in, if I had to, the Hamza at Greedo. But there's going to be a lot of stuff coming into play by the time Grenzo's next turn is rolling around, and then he'll get a turn. He'll probably put a load of stuff into play at the end of Greedo's turn, and then obviously we've got to worry about the swing back here as well. Bitter Blossom from Greedo, and like we said, at the end of Greedo's turn, the Dungeon Warden is going to get stuff into play. That is a Murderous Red Cap, which is another combo piece similar to the Kitchen Finks. So that is going to deal damage to any target, just deals it to Drone of War directly. Then it's a Scry with the Crystal Ball. And Grenzo gets out a Meteor Golem, so it's a good job we didn't get down the doubling season. Think I would go for the Zendikar Resurgent here if it was up to me. And that's exactly what he goes for. Getting another Bat token. Because with Grenzo, he does put the card into the graveyard before it comes into play. That's why the Desecrated Tomb is triggering. So gets a Bat for each successful activation of Grenzo. It's noteworthy, Polar Bear Soup is just passing through his turn with a bunch of mana held up. So we're through to Drone of Wars now. And playing a land activates the Felidar Retreat. They make a cat token this time. And a land for Felidar Retreat puts a plus counter on everything again. And there we are, the Vidalcan Orrery. So now our opponent has Prophet of Kruphix online. With the Seedball Muse and Vidalcan Orrery, they can just play stuff every turn. They've got the Guardian Project, Beast Whisperer to draw cards every time they play a creature. So it's pretty much playing cards on everyone's turn from now on. And with 6 cards in hand, and still decent chunk of mana left, they get Forgotten Ancient. Does that trigger on them casting spells as well? Yeah, it's whenever a player casts a spell, you get plus counters. So drawing a couple of cards per creature they play. Then playing a Stonecoil Serpent where X is 7. I don't know if they actually put any mana into that. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures with plus counters on them. So I think they put some mana into that. It's a 7/7 with Reach and Trample and protection from multicoloured anyway. Now the Meteor Golem being sacrificed to Yahenni. And some mana being tapped by the Grenzo player. And they use the Rato Lantern. Yeah, so probably dealing with the Prophet of Kruphix line of play here. Drone can do things in response with 8 cards in hand. Now activating Grenzo. Bringing out the Meteor Golem. And pointing Meteor Golem at the Vidalcan Orrery. So in response, that looks like, yep, Avacyn, Angel of Hope, that is indestructible on all of their stuff. And they only paid 3 mana to do that. Yahenni sacrificing the Meteor Golem in response, so just going to do it again. Might be that there's Teferi's Protection, Heroic Intervention, things like that over here. So yeah, Rato Lantern, activate Grenzo. Might be some Graveyard Exile here, maybe a, what is it called, Scavenging Ooze, that's a good plus counter thing. Alright, Shamanic Revelation. They'll gain a bunch of life and draw a bunch of cards. Jumping up to 59 life. And that triggers the Heliod as well. We've got 14 cards in hand now. No unlimited hand size though. So Meteor Golem comes back off of Grenzo. And this probably spells the end for the Vidalcan Orrery. And successfully taking that down, that's well played by Polar Bear. Avacyn lands, giving all this stuff indestructible. Oh, we're already through to the cleanup step, unfortunately. I thought I'd removed auto yields before the end step. Would have put another couple of plus counters on the Hangerback Walker there, but didn't do it quickly enough, apparently. Alright, well, Vigor goes on the stack, so that gives us a chance, thankfully. Vigor getting shuffled into the library when it gets discarded. We get into Nature's Law, so we'll put those 2 away. What was gotten rid of here? Mirror Entity. Some lands, 3 visits. Yeah, just getting rid of a bunch of mana there. 7 cards in hand that they will not get to keep, thanks to Teferi's Puzzle Box. Alright, there we go. Now drawing into Return of the Wild Speaker. Let's get down Solemn Simulacrum for free. Puts a plus counter on the Forgotten Ancient. And we'll just grab ourselves a Plains with that, which activates the Felidar Retreat, and I think that can just be a plus counter on all of our stuff. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 for Gavany Township, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So we can't do Gavany Township and Return of the Wild Speaker. I think I might do this at the end of Drone's turn anyway, just so that we don't draw anyone's ire. Yeah, so we'll just make that. Yeah, we'll go for a beast token with that. So we'll just hold it up like that. No blue players at the table, thankfully, so I fancy our odds of getting off a Return of the Wild Speaker. An Awakening Zone from Greedo. And then getting into his first commander of the game, Gilanra. Now, before Greedo's turn ends, Dungeon Warden is triggering again. And this time, oh, that's scary, getting into Cold Doltha Forge Master. They don't have any artifact creatures, but they've got enough artifacts to tutor for something with that. I'm not sure what they'd want to go for with that. It might be that they've got all the artifacts that they need at the moment. Grenzo's doing pretty well over there. Activating the Crystal Ball as well. Yeah, I thought before that at least we can get rid of their sack outlet with some exile, but now Ashnod's Altar coming down as well. Doesn't look too promising for us. I'm just worried about Grenzo comboing off out of nowhere. Sacrificing the Crystal Ball, Arcane Signet and Meteor Golem to the Kuldotha Forge Master. That triggers Blood Artist, which gets pointed at Drone. Cauldron of Eternity. Whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of your library. I mean, yeah, it's in play now, so they can potentially do a bunch of stuff. I think we just have to leave them alone and hope that they don't do anything to us. If they do, then we can always do stuff in response. They might have a combo here in Workhorse. Yeah, because they can sacrifice the Workhorse for mana. Put it onto the bottom of their library with the Lantern. Yeah, I think they might be able to go infinite here. I'm not too well up on my Grenzo lists. And Drone holding priority over there. Not sure if he wants to do something before any of this starts occurring. Alright, that is Heliod's intervention. Getting rid of some really good stuff there. Getting rid of the Lantern. A sack outlet. The Cauldron of Eternity. Yeah, I think we just continue to hide our Return of the Wild Speaker. Now, Blood Artist is on the stack. All that went through really quickly, so I'm not sure what happened. I think Meteor Golem was sacrificed previously, so I'm not sure what's died here. And then the Lantern puts the Workhorse on the bottom. They've still got a sack outlet in the Yahenni Undying Partisan. And the Heliod's intervention obviously hasn't triggered yet. Desecrated Tomb will resolve. Okay, I think it's the bat tokens that they're sacrificing. Yeah, it doesn't tell me in the log for some reason, because that would be useful. But yeah, there's nothing going into the graveyard, so I assume it's the bats that are getting sacrificed, which triggers Blood Artist, goes over to Drone of War. Then activating Grenzo with the Ashnod's Altar mana. Then activating Grenzo again. And getting into the Workhorse that they put on the bottom previously. Sacrificing the Workhorse, we'll put it on the bottom, so I think this is just infinite mana for them. Sacrificing the Murderous Redcap now. And they decide to bring in the Murderous Redcap with Persist. We'll let that hit play first. They might have infinite damage here. Like I said, I'm not too well up on my Grenzo interactions. But we'll let the Persist creature come back into play. Although I don't suppose we have a chance to exile it anyway with the sack outlets. And the 1 damage from the Murderous Redcap went on to the Blood Artist, which triggers Blood Artist and the Bastion of Remembrance. I just want to see if I can actually do anything about all of this. So I'm going to go for the Soul Ring, tapping down the Hangerback Walker. That'll put 2+ counters on it before our Branching Evolution goes down. And then we'll go for drawing a card for the greatest power amongst non-humans we control, which draws us into 12 cards, of course, and there is some removal in Dromoka's command. Just telling my opponents that I have absolutely no idea what to get rid of here. They've got a sack outlet for creatures, so they can pretty much protect those. Yeah, so even if we point removal at Grenzo, I think they can just continue to do everything on the stack. Yeah, they can just do everything at instant speed, can't they? Alright, well, we'll just go, for the fun of it, Dromoka's command, and then that cat beast can fight Grenzo, but he can just do everything at instant speed at this point, so it's just a case of fast forwarding through at this point, I think. So maybe should have pulled the trigger a little bit earlier on the Return of the Wild Speaker. I'm sure a lot of you in the comments can let me know about what should have occurred there. Maybe should have responded to the Cauldron of Eternity. Yeah, really not sure there, but you can all let me know in the comments. I'll fast forward through it now and see you at the end of the video. Alright, I've just asked my opponents if they want to scoop here and declare Polar Bear the winner. Because it's going to take forever and a day to jump through all these hoops, but basically they sacrifice the Murderous Redcap, and that goes into the bin. The Cauldron of Eternity puts it on the bottom. They've sacrificed it to the Ashnod's Altar, which they luckily drew into instead of discarding or putting on the bottom with Teferi's Puzzle Box before. And then Polar Bear decided to scoop. Well, he wins that one anyway. We will concede there as well. Yeah, so basically he sacrifices the Redcap to the Ashnod's Altar, has 2 mana floating, the Cauldron puts it on the bottom, and he activates Grenzo with that 2 mana, putting the Murderous Redcap back in, and he can just continue to shock us all for 2. So it was a good game for Polar Bear Soup, a good game for Drone of War as well, showed us what our Hamza list should have been doing, but unfortunately it didn't. We would have started to get back into the game there, obviously, but Polar Bear Soup managed to get the one off on us. It is turn 9, so that sounds about right. Unlucky for Bootleg Greedo. A big thank you to my 3 opponents for playing against me and supporting the channel on Patreon. You can follow the link in the description below if you want to do that as well. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe, and comment below if you don't want to do that but want to support the channel anyway. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.